Hey everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's right at the top of the hour. Welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today, we're going to be presenting on strengthening cybersecurity for terminal automation systems. Uh, my name is Jack McGrath. I am the marketing manager here at Toptech Systems. I'd like to again welcome you to the webinar. A couple of things. We're going to be the presenters today are Adrian Williams, who is the director of IT and information security at Toptech Systems, as well as Mustali Dalal, who is the director of software at Toptech Systems. So we are going to be recording this session today. So you can expect after the session, you'll be receiving a link to the recording. We'll also be sending out a quick survey. We'd love to get feedback from you. We'd like to do these in the future. So any feedback would be greatly appreciated. So we'll keep an eye out for that. During the session, I will be monitoring the chat. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and use the chat, which is on the upper left-hand side of your screen there on Teams, and post your question. And what I'll do is we'll make sure we've left time at the end of the webinar, so there'll be time for questions, and we'll visit those then. So other than that, I just wanted to mention that if you have any technical issues along the way, again, you can use chat. Or you could contact me, Jack, through Teams chat or through WhatsApp. And there's a connection right to my WhatsApp. So having said that, I'm going to talk about the agenda for today. Let me go back. Got overzealous there. So today we're going to do a brief introduction of the speakers and of Toptech Systems, a little bit about Toptech Systems, and then we're going to be talking about the trends. One thing, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know if maybe Adrian and Mustali, if you could mute for a moment. So we're going to talk about trends. One thing I thought was really interesting, as you all know, cyber is really is growing. We see stories about it all the time. We're constantly hearing about these. One thing you may not know is that the oil and gas industry is the 5th most popular attack vector for cyber hackers and attacks. So we'll be talking to Adrian about the trends that he's seeing in cybersecurity and cyber attacks, so you're aware of those. And then we're going to segue into talking to Mustali about how you can protect your terminal from the perspective of the terminal automation system and some of the best practices to make sure that you're safe. And as I mentioned at the end, we'll be leaving some time for questions. So tee those up along the way in the chat, and we will get to those. Okay, great. So having said that, I'm going to hand it over to Mustali.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is Mustali Dalal. I am the director of software here at Toptech. Been with Toptech about 19 years, going on 20. Will be in a couple of years. It will be 20. So I've seen a lot of change, and I'm happy to talk to you a little bit about the challenges facing this industry, and also started off with about Toptech. So who is Toptech? Toptech is a global leader in terminal automation. So over the years, we've provided. I'm getting some feedback too. I'm not sure where that's coming from. Let's try again. Sorry about that, but Toptech Systems is a global leader in providing products and services to the oil and gas industry. We've been in business for a very long time, almost 35 years, and we're dedicated to streamlining their data management and bringing efficiencies from the load rack all the way to the back office through our industry-leading presets that we call flow controllers, and also our automation software. We are a unit of IDEX Corporation, which is a publicly traded company. It provides niche engineering products and services. As I mentioned, we are a global company, and we're proud to be represented in about 66 countries. So our products and services are used in a number of locations around the world, almost 1,200 locations in more than 66 countries. So we're really proud of that achievement. And over the years, for being in business this long, we have developed a number of products and services over the years, just catering to the changing needs or the evolving needs of the terminal industry. On the terminal side, for automation, we have our TMS7 product. It's been around for a very long time, and it has evolved. and it's the most secure automation platform in the industry. It provides load rack visibility and control and inventory management. For TDS, our TDS product actually provides allocation, control, and BOL access to third parties. On the hardware side, we have our multi-load 2+ products and the SMP that allows a load rack interface and control for the drivers at the facilities, and the RCU2+ for just facility access and control. On the crude side, we have products that cater to the crude and the bulk fuel, the bulk terminal markets. The UAP and the SCS products are available for the crude lacked skids. They're, we see a number of them. They're very popular, and also the Slate product, which allows a very flexible load rack interface in remote locations. On the terminal suite side, we provide a number of cloud-based hosted products and services. Load Today is one of them that provides customer onboarding for suppliers and also BOL and data access and Synetics for analytics, and Top 7 to manage your portfolio of terminals from one centralized system. And with that, I would like to hand this over to Adrian to give us some basics on what's going on with the network security.
Adrian, you're muted.
Check.
You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I will start my spiel again. Thank you, Mustali. Good day. My name is Adrian Williams. I'm the Director of IT and Security at Toptech Systems. I've been with the company for about 14 years. My background is in networking, and I currently specialize in cybersecurity frameworks and compliance. Today, we'll be discussing key cybersecurity trends related to industrial control systems, ICS, which includes terminal automation systems. So when you hear me say ICS, I do mean TAS as well. My goal here is for you to walk away with practical cybersecurity insights and actionable tips to help reduce your organization's risk footprint. Let's start with the growing convergence of IT and OT systems. So IT being information technology, OT being operational technology systems. Traditionally, industrial control systems operated in isolated environments, but that is no longer the case. Today, ICS networks are connected to corporate IT systems, and in many cases, even to the cloud. This connectivity introduces new attack vectors. Suddenly, TAS environments are exposed to IT-based threats like phishing, ransomware, and credentials theft. We need to treat OT with the same security rigor we apply to IT, starting with network segmentation, strict access control, and monitoring. Next, we are seeing a sharp increase in ransomware and malware attacks, specifically designed to target ICS-TS systems. Groups like DarkSide have shown us that attackers are no longer just encrypting files. They're aiming to disrupt operations, damage equipment, even create life-threatening scenarios. Threat actors don't have to be technically skilled to launch an attack. With access to services such as ransomware as a service, they can simply run an email phishing campaign and wait for someone to take the bait. Unlike traditional IT ransomware, these threats can halt fuel pipelines, stop manufacturing, or even create a dangerous physical outcome. To defend against this, we need real-time threat monitoring, hardened endpoints, and incident response plans that include OT teams, not just IT. This isn't just about protecting data anymore. It's about protecting lives and infrastructure. Finally, let's talk about one of the biggest ongoing challenges, legacy systems in ICS environments. Many of these systems run in outdated, unsupported software like Windows XP or old firmware and simply can't be patched without major operational disruption. This creates a perfect storm for attackers to exploit well-known vulnerabilities, such as the Eternal Blue exploit, which was behind WannaCry and other major ICS-related attacks. If you can't patch, you must compensate. That means use virtual patching, network level protection, VPN encapsulation, and even critical systems are segmented from broader network to minimize your footprint of damage. You also need solid asset inventory so you know what's running and where and how it's exposed. A lot of times too, we don't know there's a system in our network that hasn't been patched and is a window for into our environment to cause compromise. ICS systems are no longer off the radar for cyber criminals. You need to evolve your defense by bridging the IT-OT gap, implementing layered protections, and making cybersecurity a core part of operational resilience. One of the most concerning trends we're seeing is in the rise in supply chain attacks, especially in the ICS space. Attackers aren't just coming through the front door anymore. They're targeting vendors, third-party software, and hardware components to gain indirect access. A major example was the SolarWinds breach, which affected thousands of organizations by poisoning software updates. Another example is Dragonfly, an advanced persistent threat group that compromised energy companies by infiltrating vendor systems as early as 2014. I have a case story on how this was used and helpful links that Jack will provide after my presentation. ICS environments are particularly vulnerable because they often rely on vendor-maintained systems and embedded components, which can be Trojanized before they even reach your network. For example, a RAT, remote access Trojan, that allows reverse access into your environment by bad actors. What can you do? You can ramp up your vendor risk assessments. You can ensure your procurement processes are built around security-first criteria. Let's talk about the growing regulatory pressure across the globe. Governments are no longer leaving ICS security to chance. They're introducing mandatory cybersecurity frameworks for critical infrastructures. In Europe, we have the NIS2, Network and Information Systems Directive 2. In the US, we have our CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, is also leading these initiatives. Standards like ISA 62443 are becoming benchmarks for ICS-specific security. That means that you have a security framework that's specifically geared towards terminal systems and terminal environments, so you know which areas you need to focus on to help build a secure environment based on standards. Meanwhile, NSIT, National Institute of Standards and Technology, helps organizations align the cybersecurity framework strategy with best practices. This is the same framework that is implemented at Toptech Systems. And for threat intelligence, many organizations are now adopting meter attack for ICS, using behavioral analytics to understand and detect adversaries. With tools like Dragos is a solution example specifically for using and implementing to your environment to help look at your infrastructure to see if there are any particular attacks going on. And just a reminder, Jack will provide a list of helpful links for you further increase your knowledge. ICS-DS environments must map their controls, conduct gap assessments, embed compliance into their core cybersecurity strategy, something that's already in practice at Toptech Systems. And as the bonus, artificial intelligence and machine learning are becoming rapidly integrated into ICS-TS monitoring systems. The reason is these tools offer real-time anomaly detection that can identify subtle changes in industrial behavior before a human can catch it. But there's a flip side. Attackers are also starting to use AI to create more adaptive and stealthy attacks. So it's not just about using AI, it's about staying ahead of how it's being used against us. As ICS environments modernize, cyber risk grows exponentially. From third-party threats to government compliance, your job is to stay proactive, not reactive. That's why you're on this webinar. And that means baking security into everything from procurement to real-time monitoring. So some takeaways here. As IT and OT environments continue to merge, we're gaining efficiency, but also increasing risks. ICS networks that were once isolated are now connected to enterprise systems, cloud platforms, and remote access tools. This exposes critical operations to ransomware, phishing, and lateral movement from IT threats. You must demand proper network segmentation, firewalls, access controls between IT and OT. It's about creating digital air gaps that protect physical infrastructure. We've moved beyond ransomware just locking up office files. Today, cyber criminals are targeting industrial systems directly, shutting down pipelines, disrupting production lines, risking public safety. This is no longer just an IT concern. It's an operational and safety concern. You need real-time monitoring, tested incident response plans, and strong backup strategies that include your ICS environments, not just your data centers. Many ICS systems still run on legacy software that doesn't support modern patching or security tools. That's a huge risk, especially with zero-day vulnerabilities on the rise. You need vendors who don't just install and forget. Toptech delivers regular updates and zero-day patching for its TMS 7 solutions through RPMs, helping protect your systems even when they are not easily upgradable. Third-party vendors can become weak links in your security chain, especially if they use insecure remote access or unvetted subcontractors. CrowdStrike, whereby even though a vetted vendor released a faulty configuration update in their Falcon software that caused a blue screen of death on a global scale. It is critical to ensure your partners follow cyber hygiene best practices. Restrict remote access. Production systems follow a tiered update process to verify before push and align with trusted frameworks. Toptech adheres to both NIST and SOC 2 standards, so our practices meet the highest benchmarks. Whether it's NIST in Europe, CISA guides in USA, or global frameworks like the IEC 62443, the trend is clear. Cybersecurity compliance is becoming mandatory for critical infrastructure. Toptech aligns its practices and services with these evolving regulations so we can stay compliant without compromise. At the end of the day, ICS cybersecurity is not just about tech, it's about protecting uptime, safety, and your reputation. Downtime from a breach is not just costly, it's dangerous. Cybersecurity must be treated as a core part of your business risk assessment and not just an IT function. As these threats evolve, so must your strategies and means building cybersecurity into every layer from the network to your vendors. Toptech believes and practices this in our solutions. Ransomware attacks are one of the biggest threats to businesses' continuity today. But there are clear steps you can take to reduce risks. Start with the basics, use antivirus software, fully patch your systems, filter risky websites, only allow company-approved software, limit access by applying least privilege. That means that only users that have the access to do certain things should have those access. Avoid connecting personal mobile devices to your business network, and don't forget to assess the risk of all third-party applications. Above all, prioritize security awareness training. Your users are the first line of defense. And for the future, make sure you have a tested incident response and business continuity plan. Please include Toptech support team as part of that plan if the systems affected are Toptech solutions related. Regularly test your backup and restore processes and document your emergency contacts and user-facing policies. And finally, stay proactive. Track emerging ransomware threats and perform a quick risk snapshot to ensure you're patched and your IT teams are fully aware and trained of the latest attack tactics. Thank you for your attention, and Jack will provide you a list of helpful links to key points that were discussed during the presentation. I will now hand it off to Mustali Dalal, who will dive into his in-depth approach on protecting your terminal.
Thanks, Adrian. Appreciate that. And that's a great overview of what we're up with or up against with. And I'd love to now talk about what can we specifically do and how do we approach security on a TAS level. So in a terminal, we see a lot of different things happening. We want to focus specifically on the automation system. What are the best ways to protect an automation system right from the time it's built to the time it's deployed and it's running. We all want our systems and our terminals humming and running. And this will provide us some basic ideas on best practices on what are the salient aspects of a secure automation system, and how do we continue to protect ourselves from these growing threats. So one of the basic foundations of an automation system, we'll talk about in each of these in a little bit of detail. So the four things that we'll talk about: number one is a secure operating system. A secure operating system is imperative to have a secure application that's going to be hosted on it. user access to be able to determine who gets access to what, from from regular end user to an administrator, and secure application overall that's adhering to best practices from development to deployment, and finally storage. The most important part, where all your information and your all the data is stored, is actually in the database. So we'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail and share what are those best practices and how Toptech plays a role in these two. So first, on a secure OS side, attacks, these cyber attacks target vulnerabilities in operating systems and applications. Things that are known to the hackers, they are regularly exploited because these vulnerabilities are known and they look for targets. Of course, as data has suggested over time, Windows-based platforms are more targeted than other platforms like Linux. At Toptech, we have standardized on the Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system, which is a Linux-based system, and let's just say it's less popular target within the hacker community. But still, that does not give us any sense of respite here. We need to make sure that not only that an OS is secure, but also it is available for, it lines up with what we call the CIS benchmarks. The CIS benchmarks is a great way of measuring security and a lockdown configuration of an operating system. It's not exclusive to Linux or Windows. It's available for a number of platforms, and it provides a great way to measure how vulnerable and the operating system configuration is out of the box. So on the Toptech side, our TMS and Top Hat systems ship with benchmark software and configuration out of the box. Another good best practice for operating systems is patch management. Adrian mentioned this. This is something you just cannot let up on. It's not the days of the past where, we could connect to terminal automation systems through modems and didn't have to worry about operating system vulnerabilities. But we're in a whole different world now. And this has changed the kind of work that we used to do. And now we're so entwined now with IT that these problems become, or let's say these measures have to become part of our daily work outside of keeping the trucks running and those trucks loading. So OS patch management is extremely important. And this allows you to keep your OS up to date with all the vulnerabilities that are being patched by the operating system provider, maybe Windows or Linux. And this at least makes sure that any known vulnerability that's out in the world is not exploited, because these become easy targets. Toptech provides a cybersecurity compliance package that allows you to update, keep your operating systems up to date at regular intervals via our secure repositories. And on a side note, we also have an ability to have our automation software get installed on your version of a Red Hat operating system. Many IT organizations have a lockdown configuration that they prefer to use for their applications in their hosted environments, and we provide, and the separation that we have between the OS and our application allows us to install it onto your application or operating system platform. So overall, a secure OS is a fundamental box to check before we go deeper into the other aspects of an automation system. Next to here is I would like to talk about is the user access, to ensure that that you are not allowing access to folks that do not have ability to access anything more than what is defined is extremely important. An automation system provides a lot of different features to maintain load drag control, inventory management, loss prevention, and secure data communications. You need to be absolutely sure who is able to access what at any given time. And the concept of a least privilege, or in short, least privilege principle, ensures that you can lock down that access to an application or feature to resources that you define and nothing beyond those defined rules. So a comprehensive role management that is revolving around security is extremely important to protect yourself from the users or that do not have the ability to access something more than they are actually defined to. So a good segregation of duties is extremely important. Centralized authentication is also a great option to control access to users without the need to maintain credentials in multiple places. This reduces IT overhead or administrative overhead and allows you to lock down users when somebody leaves an organization and there's only one place to control access for that particular user. Active Directory is one example of centralized authentication. On premises is something that we see widely used in the industry, and it is now maturing more into an adoption towards a cloud-based single sign-on capability. So now there's a cloud-based single sign-on process is something that is becoming more and more widely available, and something that even all organizations now expect applications to allow them to control user access through those cloud-based authentication systems. Two-factor authentications, or 2FA, are also available in form of OTP. That's another variation of two-factor authentication that allows you to secure or allow access to an application via a one-time password. It's a great option, but it's kind of low on the, let's say, the convenience scale, but is an effective alternative when something like Active Directory or single sign-on is not available. And like anything or any regular automation system, there's always going to be communications between an end user and a server. It's extremely important that those communications between a client and whatever data that is exchanged with the server is secured via the latest standards, and it's not vulnerable to a man-in-the-middle attack or vulnerable to be listened into. This is something that is is extremely important, and something that even our enterprise applications with TMS and Top Hat now are completely capable of providing. So we implement the latest TLS communications and ensure that nothing less than that standard is available for the user to be able to exploit and compromise the communications. Another thing that we see growing in the automation industry is the access to data. So the data management and data transfer is now moving away from file or insecure file-based transfers into using secure endpoints or APIs. RESTful APIs are something that the industry is demanding, and now we see a growing need for data to be unlocked from the automation system and being provided either to analytical systems or intelligence systems to drive business decisions. These APIs come with their own vulnerabilities, and it's extremely important for an automation system to ensure that any exchange of data is provided over secure channels and over a comprehensive token management system that allows access only to via secure tokens and over secure channels. At Toptech, we provide a number of applications that and ways to ensure that communication is available via secure APIs and over authentication via centralized locations like Active Directory. Next, let's move on to talk about application security itself. So this is the application itself that is controlling the load rack, providing reporting capabilities, and exchanging data. So what is it specifically about application development that makes it secure? Well, there's something called an application firewall. And to ensure that an application does not have more access to the operating system resources, the better a system can perform under an attack. An application firewall ensures that the resources outside of its defined scope are not violated. This exists on all platforms. For Linux, SE Linux provides this capability, and Toptech integrates deeply with SE Linux in its latest version of software and provides policies that set those limits for the application. So we ensure that our automation system is secure, and even if in time of an attack, it's not going to allow an attacker more access to the operating system resources more than what the application has. Another area of security that an application can provide is in password management. There are applications out there that provide management of passwords over insecure ways, like in just plain text files. And the applications can become extremely vulnerable when credentials are stored in these insecure channels. Credentials may be for end users, administrators, or your storage, like the database. A secure application should follow an effective password management process that ensures that these passwords can be stored securely and can be changed on demand, and implement the strongest encryption algorithms. So really the best practice here is change your default passwords, from your default applications, maybe the application itself, or storage, or a command line interface, or the database. Change those, keep changing those passwords and change them often. Vulnerabilities typically multiply when an application relies heavily on root privileges. A strong TAS environment will ensure that the number of processes and services that require root access is minimal. The more processes and services you have that tap into a root privilege, the more vectors that you are trying to expose here, for an attacker to leverage. So ensure that you are not letting this application run wild, at root privileges, and make sure that it's where the areas are defined are not only well defined but also well understood. On the Toptech side, as in our journey, we have continued to reduce the footprint and the requirement of root privileges, within our applications, and down to now having only a single process that manages our passwords is the only one that requires a root privilege. All other processes that requires processes and services require standard rule-based privileges and permissions, so that the automation system is not trying to take on more than it's actually needing. Another great indicator of a secure application is its performance against vulnerability and penetration testing software. A steady or a frequent measurement of these benchmarks help ensure not only that your application is secure, but also help measure the risk profile accurately and guide the continuous improvement of the software. We bake security into our entire SDLC and ensure that when software is developed, it's adhering to standards. It's typically called the OWASP standards, and we continuously monitor the security of our software by using some industry-leading software to perform those regular scans. Here's a quick example of of our regular scan right in before our major release this year. From back in January, where we ran a scan and we found that we were a medium in our risk profile, and that drove some inherent security changes in our software and reduced our risk profile down to a low, with the really low impact vulnerabilities and nothing over a level 2. This is just an example of for what we do in playing a part in managing vulnerabilities in our software and ensuring there's no such thing as a zero risk for any kind of an automation system in this world or in our industry, but having a risk that is at a manageable level is extremely important, and it helps us to keep our confidence in that automation system. And finally, database security. Database is where all your storage lives, right? And it continues to grow. You need to make sure that you are using a database that is widely adopted, that has a reputation for security, and is capable of improving upon that security via regular patch management. MariaDB is a widely used software that we use here at Toptech, and some of you may recall that MySQL. This was MariaDB was MySQL before Oracle acquired it. It has a high reputation of being secure, and it's continuously being adapted by the community and improved to ensure that all vulnerabilities are addressed. Passwords, another part of ensuring that you have a database that's up to date is to make sure that you have a patching cadence that aligns with your operating system cadence. This is anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks is where Toptech makes these new patches available and allows our customers to keep up with this patch cadence, so that at least the known vulnerabilities are patched and reduces the number of vectors that an attacker can compromise. We continuously ensure that we are on the latest version of software, with MariaDB, and a new version was just released, and we have plans to adopt it in the short term. Credential management, of course, is very important. A credential is your keys to the database. We need to make sure that you have an extremely secure way that to manage access to that database and the application's access to the database. This is something that is really a make or break to avoid any kind of attack to the database and causing data loss. Of course, it's always great to have a backup, but if you do not have a good password security behind your database credentials, you can you'd be opening yourself to an extremely damaging downtime. Encryption is another way to ensure that your database is secure. So if your file system is compromised, this will ensure that the encryption of the database will not allow the data access to an attacker. There are multiple ways that you can or options that are available at the database level. One is called in transit, and the other one's at rest. So in transit is any access to the database from a remote system is encrypted via secure certificates, and at rest is is in a form of encryption that encrypts all the storage at the file system itself. So ideally having both options is preferred, but having access from a remote location is always a vulnerability, and at least from our perspective, we lock down that remote access out of the box and adopt encryption at rest when we ship the systems. Last but not least, I would like to just talk about a question that we get a lot around antivirus and IRM, which is infrastructure risk management tools. The task systems typically operate in a very controlled environment. Just like Adrian mentioned, you need to have good cybersecurity compliance with the standards out there and the tools that allow you to segregate your networks. So a task system is available further deep into the network. So it is in a controlled environment, and typically it excludes platforms and applications that have typical attack vectors like email attachments or link activation or even web browsing. So really, there's a significantly low risk, but not it's not small, but it is a low risk compared to systems that are open out in the internet and they are continuously exposed to those vectors. And IT teams use continuously, we see that, they use standardized and compliant software on all, they require compliant software on all platforms, including Linux. So even though, Windows systems are more vulnerable and have, let's say there are more products that are targeting Windows platforms than Linux platforms, one thing that, that is a factor is the potential impact on system performance and stability. And depending on just on how invasive such software may be. We just heard, Adrian mentioned CrowdStrike, right? It is, it was a trusted vendor with trusted software, but it went through let's say a problem, and it caused systems to bring down. So anytime you're going to introduce invasive software, you have to be aware of what that impact may be. And this is the reason why at least a Linux-based system like Taz, in a secured network is a significantly lower risk than compared to Windows systems. But overall, that said, Toptech, for those reasons, we do not really recommend a specific enterprise-level antivirus software, from a threat monitoring perspective or mitigation perspective. But there are some products that are used by our customers, and those products are some that are mentioned here. We have seen these products play nice with us, but it's hard to predict what these products may bring about from an impact perspective in the future. So in closing, these are the 4 layers, protection layers from a security of an automation system, and I hope that we've come across as with some best practices on how to manage and identify a secure automation system than from one without. So with that, I'll hand it back to Jack and open the floor for questions.
Great, thank you, Mustali. Thanks, Adrian. Great stuff. Any questions from anyone? I've been monitoring the chat. I did have a question or two online. I know that there was a question that was talking about hard drives, whether hard drives need to be encrypted or not. I got that message through WhatsApp. And Mustali, I don't know if you could talk a little bit about that, how critical it is to have that encrypted.
Encryption is great. There's nothing wrong with encryption, and wherever encryption is a good thing. And as far as disk encryption goes, it's something that you have to evaluate because a disk level encryption, at least from an automation perspective, introduces another level of complexity to the system in managing credentials externally. Reduces or let's say extends your what is called an RTO in a recovery time objective in a disaster situation. So it is possible, and it's definitely recommended to have your disks encrypted. And the performance impact on those disks are usually are not high, but a task systems typically today do not run on bare metal on the disks. They are typically virtualized platforms, and they are completely capable on running on encrypted file systems. So it's a good thing to encrypt, but really you have to balance your disaster recovery and your credential management processes with the security that this will provide.
Thank you. Great. One other question that came in, there was someone's asking about they've got a small IT department running the terminals. What's a recommendation on some training that they can provide to their staff that would help? And Adrian, I don't know if you can feel that one.
I mean, yeah, you can use sites like Cyberly kind of thing. They have some training there that's pretty cost effective. Udemy Business has a lot of applications or posts based on cybersecurity. You can just start even with YouTube with some of the promotions of cybersecurity and what your footprint is. Start with the threats, see where you're at, see what your footprint is. Because instead of going down a hole, try to focus on what you actually have and how can you protect it. How do you currently protect your current infrastructure? And then that way you can start to address that. You can look at vCISOs. So if your team is small, but you're trying to get a quick profile, stuff like that, you can look at vCISOs. And these basically are cybersecurity people who are for hire to kind of give you an assessment of where you're at in your risk and what you need to address. So hopefully that answers that question.
Great, thank you. Another question Austin Williams had, how do we best protect systems like TMS-7, which is an ICS application, but requires customer service reps and others to access it from IT computers and remotely? It's a good question.
So I did kind of give him a detailed response, but I'll give you an overview of that. So what you want to look at is what they call CTNA with zero trust network applications. And for example, you have NetScaler and Citrix, right? The good thing about TMS-7 is it can be accessed from a web page, right? You can then take that web page and then encapsulate it in some kind of application like Citrix and push it out to your users, right? Citrix has features where based on who's using it, it'll verify if that person has an antivirus, like how secure is that system before you access that environment. Everything is logged, so you know who needs to log it. If there's some kind of incident or compromise, you can quickly lock down access from that level before it even gets to TMS if needed. So that's kind of what you have to look at about, encapsulating. If something's not super secure, you can always secure at a higher level based on the applications that are out there. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, awesome. And I'd like to add a little bit more to that. On the Toptech side, we also see that as a potential vulnerability to allow your customers access to your automation system, and that's why we have we have our load today service that allows your customers to interact with TMS in a secure way from a web hosted platform. So you do not really have to open up your network at all to all these customers of yours. They could all, that's a service that we provide, at least from a load today side. If if you are managing a TMS or a Top Hat system.
Great segue. And yeah, if you need any questions or have any questions on Load Today or any of the other products, as they mentioned, contact me and I'd be happy to connect you up with some folks here in sales at Toptech. So thanks again, everyone, for attending today. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Adrian and Mustali. And I'd just like to say that we're going to be sending out a link to the recording for this webinar and also a survey. Again, we'd love to get your feedback, what works best for you. So we can continue to provide those. So if there are no other questions, I think we're just going to end the event. And thank you all again very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.